In this video, we'll be going over Chapter 4, Section 2, where we look at organizing the elements and how the periodic table's organization changed over time. So, Dmitri Mendeleev discovered that when you put the elements in order based off of their atomic mass, other similarities appear. So when you organize them based off of their mass, which is their protons and neutrons added together, ones that were next to each other in that list had similar melting points, similar densities, similar colors, and so he was figuring out that there was a pattern to how they could be organized. He found that the properties of elements repeated, and so he grouped similar ones together. So, for example, like sodium, lithium, and potassium all reacted with water in a similar way, so he put them in a group together when he was organizing the different elements. When he did this, he found that strictly arranging them by atomic mass didn't always work. And so sometimes they were organized by some atomic mass, but other times he would move them so that some elements were in groups just because of their similarities. So they were not all based off of mass. He did this and he organized them in such a way that he was able to look at the table he created and predict properties about elements that hadn't been discovered yet, because they would have similar properties that would fall between things. So you can see on here, there are some, not the pointer. There are some that have like a question mark, and those ones are going to be ones that he could predict properties of, but they hadn't been discovered yet, so they didn't have as much information about them. So this is the Mendeleev periodic table from 1869. This is how he organized it. The modern periodic table was changed a little bit. So in 1913, Henry Moseley discovered that he discovered a way to count essentially the positive charged protons in the nucleus to figure out the atomic number. So they were able to figure out how many protons were in each element, and so they were able to figure out the atomic number for each element. And by doing that, when they arranged the elements based off of those numbers, based off of the atomic number, which is the number of protons, there were even more patterns that became regular, and it kind of fixed some of the problems that were occurring with Mendeleev's version, where he had to move some because they needed to be in different groups. So by arranging them based off of the atomic number, they were grouping themselves into better property groups. And so this is what we do now. The periodic table is based off the atomic number. So you see how it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. It skips some numbers up here to help with that organization, but then those patterns continue to appear afterwards. So the two main things for organizing the periodic table that we're going to go over today are periods and rows, or periods and groups. Periods are rows that go from left to right. Okay, so there are specific patterns that occur in every single period. The elements on the left side of the period are highly reactive metals. Then they get less reactive in the middle, then you get to the metalloids, and then finally on the right-hand side are the nonmetals. And as you go across the periods in every single one, this is the same pattern. The groups, or the columns, we're going to call them groups, are elements that have similar properties based off of essentially how they react. So like group 1 are metals that react really violently with water. But then in group 2 are elements that react slowly or not at all with water. And so they're based off of their reactions. We will also, in another couple lessons, get into the family names, because different groups have different family names as well. But periods go left to right, groups go up and down. So you have a periodic table that you're going to glue into the back of your notebook. And we're going to be color coding it, we're going to be adding information onto it, and we're going to be just like annotating it over the next couple weeks. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to put down in the very bottom corner, you're going to put that periods go left and right, and that groups go up and down, just to help you remember that. Okay, so that's where you're going to want to place that indication. All right, this wraps up the lesson for 4.2 where we were looking at organizing the elements.